What a beatdown. That was awesome.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell Dapprich joining us from Neville Arena to recap Auburn's 106-65 win over Queens University from Charlotte, not from New York. Darrell, I mean, for a while there, it looked like the final was going to be 150-20, right? And then, Queens had a little bit of a run in the second half. You can tell Auburn played less aggressive and played more guys there down the stretch. But all in all, I think throughout the game and take advantage of the major mismatch in Auburn's favor. This is what this game should have looked like.
Yeah, I mean, the start that Auburn had was one of the better starts they've had in quite a long time. Sure. And, Bethune-Cookman, they played with their food a little bit. Chattanooga, they didn't come out with that kind of kill shot. And Auburn right out of the gate, I mean, I think it was like 30-6 or something like that. I mean, the game was over with about 7 or 8 minutes left to go in the first, or 7 or 8 minutes into the first half. And that's what Auburn needed to do with an opponent like this. They looked fresher. They were coming off a very, very brutal stretch there of basketball. So this is just what the doctor ordered. And you could tell that they were back home and they were well rested.
Yeah, I mean, it's felt like forever since Auburn has played a basketball game. They looked fresh, I think. I couldn't really tell if it was certain guys looking more fresh because we've had some guys be a little bit beat up. Keyshawn Murphy, I thought, had a little bit more pep in his step. I think the Hod looked a little bit quicker than he has over the last few outings. And then same with Hall, especially in the first half. I think it looked that way, or it could have just been Auburn is significantly faster than Queens, and that's just what it looked like. Darrell, you saw it in person. You saw him warming up. Did this team look a little bit more well-rested and maybe a little bit more healthy?
Yeah, and I think Stephen Pearl alluded to that yesterday, talking about as healthy as Keyshawn Murphy's been all year. I'm a little bit surprised that Tahad was as healthy as he was. I mean, because it's been a little over a week before you had that ankle injury, and typically 8 days, 9 days, you're not completely over an ankle injury.
After the Purdue game, we both were like, yeah, he's not going to play against Queens.
I would have been very, very okay with that. Would have waited until next Saturday against Georgia. But he's still, trying to find it offensively. But look,
1 of 8.
He absolutely had some dimes though tonight as far as assists and how he was dishing the basketball. So, that was positive. Still concerning that he's struggling in Neville Arena a little bit as far as his shot, but he looked very quick, very fast, very good distributor of the basketball. Look, Queens wasn't shooting the basketball well early on. They were missing a lot of open looks. And I think that got Auburn's transition game going the other way. A lot of run outs, a lot of fast break points. And that really helped when you're missing shots like that, you can get rebounds. You can start transitioning the other way.
Yeah. First half transition was great. Some awesome passes, looked like team basketball. It was against Queens, but this is what it should have looked like against an inferior opponent, which is nice. We saw different guys kind of pop and go on runs. Kevin Overton, 23 points on 8 of 12 shooting. Darrell, he made 5 of the 7 threes. Goodness gracious. I really want to see that going into conference play.
I think that, and I saw this on social media, and I thought it was a really nice analogy, or maybe I saw it in the barn. This team is going to go – you can talk about Tahad and you can talk about Keyshawn Hall all you want. I think this team's going to be at its apex and be at its best when Kevin Overton is. He reminds me a lot of Miles Kelly. If you remember last year, the games that Miles Kelly played really, really well, Auburn had really, really good games. And so Overton, you know what you're going to get from him defensively. Great on-the-ball defender, one of the best rebounding guards in the country. If he gives you secondary scoring, this team will go as it's weird to say, watch for Kevin Overton in big games. If he plays well, Auburn has a chance to win.
Well, I think you could say the same thing about Elijah Freeman. 27 points, 9 of 13 shooting. He made all 4 of his threes. Secondary scoring, you're going to get stuff from Keyshawn Hall. You're going to get 18 to 25 from Keyshawn. I think we've seen that. Where does that next wave come from? And if it's at home, you haven't really seen it from Dahad. If it's been a big game on the road or a neutral site, you get that scoring from Dahad. But yeah, who's going to be the secondary scorer consistently? And we've seen glimpses of Overton and Freeman, which is great. And Sway had 10 points tonight. Keyshawn Murphy had 9 points tonight. I think those guys are going to probably live in that. Who's going to be able to pop and go off? And it's Overton and Elijah Freeman right now.
I want to see – I think Overton's done it against North Carolina State, and he had a good game against Purdue, actually. He kept Auburn – I mean, it was never really in it or respectable, but Overton had a pretty good game against Purdue. I want to see Freeman have that kind of game against a top-notch opponent. It seems like he goes off against the Chattanoogas, the Queens, Jackson State, some of these other teams. He's going to have to step up in SEC play, and he's going to have to give Auburn secondary scoring, and it's just because at the end of the day, Pettiford, I think, is going to get his on the road, and he's going to get this figured out. But you're going to have to go 3 or 4 or 5 deep. I like Murphy. I think Murphy's coming on a little bit too. He went to the rim really aggressive. You know what you get in Jovic. Is he going to be a guy that could get you sneaky double figures when conference play starts? I don't know. There's a lot of interchangeable moving parts of guys that could step up. It's just a matter of will they? Yeah.
It's just so all right, the season's here now. I mean, SEC play, next time you go out there, you're going to be playing on the road against a Georgia team that's significantly better than I was expecting them to be going into the season. I can't imagine I'm alone in that. So now that the non-conference is behind us, what Auburn is 9-4, is that right?
They are 9-4.
9-4. All 4 of your losses against top 7 teams, as they mentioned in the broadcast. I don't know how much more you can expect. Now, I do hate that 3 of those losses were beatdowns. 2 of them especially. I'm okay putting Purdue in that category. If you want to push back on that, I'll let you. And then obviously Houston was a 1-point loss. But outside of that, I think Auburn did okay. I think Auburn did better than most teams in the country would. And now you go and you play an SEC team that I think is just as deep as a year ago, but not as top heavy as it was a year ago.
No, I agree. And I think if you'd have asked me going into conference play, I really would have felt a lot better if Auburn was 10-3. If they could have found a way to win that Houston game, one of those 4, if they would have found a way to win one of those 4 and should have beat Houston missing 12 free throws, if you win that game and go into conference play 10-3, I don't know. There's just something about that psychologically about double digits that I think is a big deal. And now, let's see what that awful, tough gauntlet of a non-conference schedule. Let's see what that gets you in conference play now. Let's see how that has you ready for conference play, if that benefits you, because at least Auburn's not going into conference play beat up physically from some of these losses and some of the – I mean, look, Zach, that schedule, when they went to Las Vegas and played 3 games, then came back home and played NC State, then went out to Tucson, then went back to, came back home to play in Atlanta, and then went to Indianapolis. I mean, that is just really – just from an even travel standpoint, how it wears you down. 7 games in 17 days, two of them in different time zones, and then you have to go out to the Midwest too. I mean, I think it was too much. It was too aggressive, and I think Auburn learned a lesson from scheduling that type of non-conference.
Yeah, but also, I mean, we said it when those games were happening, like losing those games don't hurt you. And so now you know what it takes and where you are. And of those 4 teams, like you may play one SEC team that's in that tier right now. Like we said, I mean, the SEC is not top heavy right now. It's deep, got a lot of solid teams, but I think the SEC is going to really beat each other up a ton this year, which could be good for Auburn. We'll see. We'll see how these first few games go. All right, let's jump into what the start of SEC play could look like, and also final takeaways from tonight's action. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Darrell, sounds like a lot of people arrived late or like right as the game was going tonight. Would have been a prime opportunity to pull out the Game Time app and say, hey, I bet you could get in here for very cheap with our friends at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And they've got NBA happy hours happening every Friday now, where they drop special lines and props and all of that. Trying to pull up just quick lines for FanDuel for college football this weekend. This is quarterfinals. Here we go. Ohio State a 9.5-point favorite over Miami. I think I would take the Buckeyes there. And then Oregon just a 2.5-point favorite over Texas Tech. I think Oregon probably covers that as well. So head over to FanDuel.com to see all of those lines and more today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Before we look at the first 5 games of conference play, any other takeaways or meaningful notes from tonight's action in the blowout, 106-65 win over Queens?
It's really hard to find meaningful nuggets or talking points. I think Auburn did exactly what they were supposed to do. I think the thing that I would take away is they looked as complete as they've looked all year. That could have been the opponent. We've talked about how games like this, Auburn just needs to worry about Auburn.
Yeah.
And that is one good thing that they did, is they just took care of business on their own and did what they were supposed to do and played at a high level. And again, I think they're fresh, and I think they're going to be well rested going into Saturday.
I think so too. And that is good because we did look banged up for sure. All right, let's look at the first 5 games. And if you guys have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat. We'll take a few of them in a moment, and then we'll let Darrell start his late drive home. At Georgia, you host A&M, you host Arkansas. At Missouri, and you host South Carolina. If you could find a way to go 3-2 in that stretch, I would be elated. I would take that in a heartbeat.
I think it's doable. I think if this team is starting to find its footing and starting to find its confidence and gets that secondary scoring and starts out by winning Saturday. Saturday's the big, what I would consider to be swing game. You got to start off the season, or start off the SEC conference with a win. You do that, it becomes very, very doable.
Yeah, a lot of folks in the chat highlighting Georgia's weak schedule. That's kind of been a talking point about several of these teams, like Vanderbilt. We saw all that Ole Miss buzz. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
With Ole Miss. So I mean, it's impossible to say. Like, what would their records be if they had Auburn's schedule? It'd probably be the same or worse. So, I can't wait to see how it plays out. Arkansas, I'm glad you get that one at home, because if you do find a way to beat Georgia and you have a 2-game homestand with Texas A&M and Arkansas, I mean, you have a tremendous opportunity to make a statement early in conference play.
Yeah, that's why that Georgia game is, I think, so crucial. You start off 1-0, you get hot and win 2 games at home, and now you're really, in that upward trajectory of where you need to be to start the season. And maybe it starts to come together a little bit. Maybe the pieces and the chemistry and all that you start to believe. I mean, there's a belief that comes with that, and then you start to play at a higher level.
Yeah. All right, let's jump to a few comments to wrap up the live, Darrell. Alaskan Obby says only 8:18 p.m. here in Alaska. WD, and thanks for staying up late, guys. Love the show and Daily Watcher. Happy New Year's, LOA. Happy New Year to you as well. Super cool. Alaska. That's crazy. That's
crazy.
like not a real place. That's so cool. Liam says, what happened to Emeka Oporum and Bashir? So Oporum's out for the year. That broke, 2 weeks ago?
Correct.
Or so, is Bashir hurt, or is that a minutes thing?
He came into this year banged up, and there's a couple times during the year that it looked like he re-injured a shoulder. So right. I don't know if that's just to be super cautious, and they're keeping him out until he's completely healthy. Maybe they felt like they rushed him back a little bit and played him a little bit too early. And now they're just trying to get him, 100%.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, cool. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on as we wrap up here?
With you twice a week, obviously on Locked On Auburn, Wednesdays and Fridays, with you and Kyle Sunday night on the Barncast. And you can follow some of my stuff over there at the Barn.
Yeah, and Liam's asking a follow-up question on Emeka. I assume it's injury, but I'm not sure. They were purposely vague with that announcement.
They made it they said it's a health or medical issue. That's it.
Yeah. So hopefully whatever it is, he is good, and would love to have him next year. That's when we added him. I felt like that was a next year plan, not a this year plan. Right. I think you agreed when that happened. Because if they can use the offseason and beef him up 15 pounds, watch out. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome for him and for Auburn, and not the rest of the SEC, which would be good. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a review. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.